All right, we're recording now. We are here today with Brianna Buseman, who is going to help us out today with the meat evaluation CDE, and the year is 2022. So we'll focus on the, I can't even think what month it is, April 2022 state CDE. Take it away, Brianna.
Awesome. Well, thank you for tuning in, and I am going to try to keep this pretty brief. So hopefully if you guys tune in and listen, it won't take too much of your time. What I'm going to do today is just kind of run through what the breakdown of the contest is going to look like. I will not be telling you what classes there will be. You don't get to find that out yet. But just to give you an idea of what the day is going to look like, as well as share some resources on things that you can be doing in the next few weeks as we prepare for that contest. So the meat evaluation CDE has a few different components to it. The first thing that's going to start is we're going to have the group together in a classroom. This will be for each rotation. This will be repeated, and students will take a written exam. This is going to be a 20-question exam, multiple choice, and we're going to start with the whole group doing that rather than doing that as a rotation, or at least that's my plan. As that typically works well with the class size and saves us a group leader. They'll get 10 minutes for that. It'll be 20 test questions, and there are previous year test questions posted online, which we'll be sure to share that link with you guys as well, and especially talk about that at the end when it comes to some of the prep things. Following that, we will break into groups, and students will rotate between 5 placing classes. And so these classes can include beef, pork, or lamb carcasses and cuts. There could also be processed meats cuts. And when I say cuts, it could be some retail cuts, or it could also be some like wholesale primal. So for example, it could be beef short loins or pork ham, something along those lines. If you look in the rule book specifically, it goes through what products, when I say like the smoked or cured cuts specifically, can be there. For example, when it's the retail cuts, cured or smoked, it could be cured or smoked center ham slices, boneless ham, sliced bacon, fresh pork sausage, smoked sausage, those sorts of things. And again, in the placings classes section of the rule book, it goes through those exact classes that it could be. There's a number of different classes that it could be. And so I won't go through all of those right now. But really the best way to prepare for this portion is either if you, again, use some of the pictures, photos from previous years that then have the placings and that sort of thing included, or go to your grocery store. If they have retail cuts there, no, they're likely not going to have a whole pork carcass or even some of the like bone-in loins, that sort of thing. But you can still do comparisons on the cut, on the muscle size, on color, that sort of thing. That's also likely the best way to prepare for the retail cut ID portion as well. So following the class placings, as I just mentioned, there's a retail cut ID portion. For this, it's going to be 3 rotations, 30 cuts total. Each rotation, they're going to look at 10 different cuts. For this portion, the cuts will come from beef, pork, and lamb. This can include the retail cuts, as well as there's some of the like organ meats and that sort of thing that can be included as well. Again, in the rule book, at the very end, there's some appendices that go through every single option for what you could have for those cuts. So again, really great way to prepare for this is to go to your grocery store or give your students a list and have them go and try to find these cuts. Some of them you may not carry in your local store, but more than likely, most of them are going to be things that are fairly common. For this, the students are going to be asked to identify the retail cut species name. So if it's a pork centerloin chop, they're going to have to say pork or that it came from hogs. the wholesale so that it came from the loin, and then the actual retail cut. And so with that on their Scantron, they'll be given the options for all of those things, and we'll have to fill that in accordingly. Again, it is 30 cuts for that portion. Also, Stacy, as we go through, if there's anything that I'm saying that needs more clarification, please let me know. Let me see here. I want to make sure I hit everything. Then there will be a lab practicum portion. So again, this is going to be one of the rotations. It's 10 questions, going to be similar to the test. However, it might not be multiple choice. It won't be like short answer, but it could be like a word bank or something like that, that they have to fill in. The lab practicum is really to take those portions or the different portions of the contest and make them applicable. So this could be something in regards to some of the ID sorts of things, where the cuts come from. It could have to do with quality of products. So identifying some of the marbling, maturity, quality defects, those sorts of things. It could have to do with yield grading. So being able to count dots on a ribeye, measure fat, estimate yield grade, things along those lines. Really, my thought on the practicum is identifying in the meat industry, where do we get our value from? And that comes from yield, it comes from quality, it comes from those defects, things that you could see in that way. And so being able to recognize where we can get some of those, some of that value in ID, maybe what is more valuable than something else. So a lower yield grade versus a higher yield grade, and along those lines. So again, they'll get 10 minutes for that rotation, and that will be 10 questions. The final portion is grading and pricing. And so we're going to have 2 beef carcasses that they will grade for yield grade and quality grade. And then they will price out those carcasses to determine really what their value is. There is, again, in the rule book, if you have not, go through and just read through the rule books. Everything that you need is right there. But the price grid is in there. If you have any questions on using that, don't hesitate to reach out. I guess I'll maybe just share really quickly, just so everybody's familiar with this. So right here is our price grid. You've determined what its quality grade is. Say it's choice, fell within yield grade 3. That one's per hundredweight price is $206. If it's say it's 1,000-pound carcass, so it's greater than the 999 pounds, you're going to subtract $8 per hundredweight. So from that 206 minus $8. If it's less than the 600 pounds, subtract $10. So again, this is in here for you to go through. If you have any questions on that, don't hesitate to reach out. And the last portion of it that I did not mention was that actually ties back to the placings classes, is that 2 of those classes, students will be able to take notes on, review their notes, and then they will answer 5 questions about those classes. So questions will likely be focused on kind of what the priority for that class is. So like pork, we prioritize trimness. For beef cuts, we prioritize quality. So it'll be focused on kind of those areas, as well as even within pork, if there's a cut that's, say, really pale in color, or it's exuding some moisture, those types of things are major quality concerns, and so would be a very, very justifiable question. On the flip side of that, with beef, if there's a cut that's, say, super, super fat, or has a very little exposed lean, those also would be good questions because they go into the value. So just really having your students thinking about why they placed them the way they did, identifying factors for the cuts, and that sort of thing. Again, they'll get some time to review their notes, and then it is 5 questions per class, and that will be over 2 classes. Okay. Just in general, kind of some contest information. It is 3 rotations. You'll be assigned to the rotation that you'll be in. I'm hoping to do well, not hopefully, we have time constraints. So it'll likely only be about 2 to 3 minutes rotating from spot to spot within that rotation. They get 10 minutes per class and per rotation. And so hopefully, I know we've got a lot of kids coming through, so it's going to be kind of tight on time, but we're going to get through it. And I will note, I have helped with this contest the past 2 years, but it was virtual. So this is my first time hosting this contest in person. So I'm very excited about it. And I will note, I say this for a lot of events that I put on, I'm very open to constructive feedback, not straight criticism. But if there's things that you see or maybe inefficiencies that could be done better, don't hesitate to tell me, or if there's something that I call wrong on some of the retail cuts or something like that, I'm learning in this position as well too. So I'm happy to hear those comments. So any questions, I guess, just on contest layout, anything that was not clear?
No, I think you're pretty clear. And first of all, thank you very much for doing this. This is a big job and we appreciate it. Lots of kids you have to get through. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Couple questions that I've heard with other webinars here. Any supplies or any clothing needs that kids should remember?
Oh, clothing. We're in a meat lab in a food facility. So long pants, clean closed-toed shoes. We will provide hairnets, frocks. I recommend bringing a clipboard, pens or pencils, I guess, for the Scantrons. The main thing with it, clipboards, make sure there's no writing, that sort of thing on it. The main thing, and I tell this to my judging kids and stuff a lot, or class whenever we go into the meat lab, is just tell your students to remember this is a food facility and all of the products that they're seeing, we're going to keep temps and that sort of thing, but they can still go into human consumption. And so don't do anything in there that they wouldn't want somebody doing to their food. And that includes, so clean clothes, no jewelry, no chewing gum, and also remind your students to shower. That might sound dramatic.
No, it doesn't.
But we're going to have a lot of students in there, and meat can pick up off flavors from smells. So make sure that they're clean coming in. But that, I guess, is the big thing. And dress warm, put on an extra sweatshirt. You're going to be in there for a couple hours and it stays pretty cold. Okay. Excellent. For those first-time teachers who have, this is their first time having a team, any like overall reminders that they need or hints? I would say my advice is, this isn't do more things that I did or watch more of me speaking, but I do have a video that's put together. It's, I think, about an hour, maybe actually a little more, that goes through kind of what to prioritize with different classes when placing beef, pork, and lamb, some of the yield grading and quality grading, that sort of thing. It was done for both the 4-H contest and CDE, so they're set up a little bit differently, but covers all that information. And I believe you're going to share that with them. So look through that, even if it isn't listening to me talk the whole time, but just kind of flip through it to the different sections. Don't hesitate to reach out to me with questions that you may have. And I will also try to like the week before the schools that I have a student registered for, to send a kind of email update if there's anything that needs to be addressed in there. But the main thing and kind of main piece of advice I'd pass on to your students when it comes to placing things is to think about, again, it's food, what would they want to eat? If they see one that's super, super fat, or the color just doesn't quite look right for what they'd expect pork to look like, that's probably an issue. So just, I guess that's kind of my best advice for first time. Oh, you're muted.
There we go. You think I'd have figured out the mute by now. Is this the video you were talking about?
That is.
Okay.
Yes.
So we'll have this up. I believe Matt also has this up on the CDE page, but it'll be up with this video. And then you have a treasure trove of resources
Yes.
also up there that can give your students a lot to look at. So thank you for putting all these together.
If there's, you'll likely either get the link, or if you just look up like Nebraska Meat CDE, it should come up with a page that has a whole bunch of old contests things, and that's from both PACE, or the state 4-H contest, and the CDE contest. And so it's got past retail ID. It has what the contest like forms are going to look like, so your students can be familiar with that. It has presentations on retail cut ID, how to do beef grading using grids, and the 2020 and 2021 CDE, all the pictures from those contests and the results, or not results, but the officials and that sort of thing are included there as well. So those should be hopefully some good training resources. Again, recommend go to your grocery store, look at these past contests, and then also the American Meat Science Association has some example classes on there as well. I will say a number of those are kind of dated, and which is fine for the pictures, but it's hard to get some of the files to download if you have a newer computer using some of those older versions, but likely some good resources there as well.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you very much. If you have questions, reach out to Brianna. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing everybody at the State Meats Evaluation CDE.
Yes, my last comment really quick. You can reach out to me at my email. It's brianna.buseman@unl.edu. I will note the next few weeks we're also planning for the National Block and Bridle Convention on campus, so I may be a day or two behind on responding. Don't hesitate to bug me if I'm not getting back to you, or reach out give me a phone call, something like that too. I'm just fine with that.
Perfect. All right. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Have a great rest of the week.